Using debt to start a ball python business is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to go out of business. And the reason why is that ball pythons and reptiles in general are already a very risky industry when you are comparing it to more traditional investments. But if you're using debt in order to jumpstart your progress in it, you are then going to be taking on the burden of making those payments, and if you don't make them fast enough, it's very possible to get absolutely crushed by the interest. So for this week's video, we're going to be diving into the dangers of using debt to start a ball python business, and we are going to cover the strategy that I think is the only acceptable way in order to use debt, in order to use financing, in order to supercharge your ball python breeding operation. My name's Steven with Leviathan, and let's get to it.
Hey guys, it's Courtney with Leviathan. Steven's behind the camera, and we're headed out to our local reptile show. We're going to head on up to Columbia, South Carolina, see some friends, see some animals, and take you guys with us. Let's go.
Alright, so first we need to talk about all of the dangers when it comes to using debt. And there's lots of different forms of debt, but I think that in general for the ball python industry, the most common ones are credit cards, personal loans, and potentially home equity lines of credit. And again, all of these different approaches can be really detrimental to you growing a ball python business. And I first want to talk about the people who are just starting out and haven't had a clutch and aren't producing any animals yet. When people like this use debt in order to buy their initial animals, oftentimes they are buying babies, which means that you are going to be needing to wait at least 2 to 3 years before those babies are up to size and you are able to produce from them. And when you are putting these purchases on something like a credit card, or if you're taking out a personal loan, or again, a home equity line of credit, what's going to end up happening is not only are you going to have to make monthly payments on each of these different animals over a long period of time, the interest is going to drastically add to the cost basis that you have for these animals, which is going to make it even harder to recoup the costs later on down the road. In addition, for 99% of the time, any animal that exists right now in the ball python breeding world, in 3 years, it's not going to be worth as much. And in some situations, it can be worth a fraction of what the price is right now. So let's say that you finance an animal for $5,000 on a credit card. By the time that you are able to produce babies from this animal 2 or 3 years later, that animal, I can almost guarantee, is not going to be worth $5,000. Maybe it's going to be worth $1,000 to $2,000. But you are still going to be paying off the $5,000 animal if you are not careful with how you're using the debt. And in addition to the $5,000 purchase price, if you're putting it on something like a high interest credit card, you very easily can be spending $6,000 to $7,000 to purchase that animal once you factor in the interest. Besides simply the time that it takes to grow a baby up to an adult in order to breed them, there's also the chance that you will get them to an adult-sized ball python and they still will not go for you. Maybe it's a male who doesn't lock, or maybe it's a female that takes 5 years to lay her first clutch, which has happened to us. So if you had put this animal on credit and you're paying them off with the idea that their babies are going to recoup their initial expense, you probably are going to end up getting crushed by interest. And with all of this interest, because the animals are depreciating over time, but you're still paying on what the original purchase price was, it is going to feel really terrible. And again, it's going to feel like that you are paying a certain percentage of your income every single month towards something that's no longer worth what you thought it was. And in my opinion, this psychological state where it feels like that you have vastly overpaid because you are still paying for an animal that's not worth that much anymore is going to feel like that you were scammed. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I think that people in the ball python hobby end up getting out. They don't feel like that they are getting the return that they expected when they first bought in.
So a couple weeks ago, the car wash place pissed me off because I tried to cancel my membership and it didn't cancel in time. So I am getting the most of my membership. My car can absolutely be vacuumed every single day. My car can be vacuumed twice a day. And so I make sure to vacuum my car every single day. And I'm gonna get my money's worth until this membership is over.
Moving a little bit away from simply the monthly payments, interest, and getting crushed under that weight, I also think that there is a danger to using credit when it comes to starting out a ball python breeding business, because we as people, I think, are not nearly as attached to money that we might make in the future, i.e. using credit, than the money that we have right now. And because of this, it's so much easier to put something on credit, and it's not as psychologically impactful for us in order to save up and make the purchase then. So because of this, I think that it is really, really easy to overextend yourself, both in the actual financial obligations that you have to maintain month on month going forward, and by buying too many animals. And if you get too many animals too fast, it can create a situation where you feel like that you don't actually have enough time to care for all the animals and to balance all of your other responsibilities, and this can lead to burnout. So again, if you don't quite have the money to make the purchase, using credit to make that purchase, especially initially, is probably not going to be the best idea because it can lead to overextension.
We are here in Columbia, South Carolina at the prestigious Jamil Shrine Temple and we will be checking out some reptiles now.
Lastly, I think that the ability to take out debt in order to pay for an unexpected purchase is one of the last resorts that somebody has in case there is an emergency that happens beyond their regular savings. But if you have already maxed out all of your lines of credit by buying animals that you didn't really need, if an emergency comes up, it might be enough to push you over the edge, and it might make you think that you can't keep breeding ball pythons. And because ball pythons take so many years to really get going, it's very likely that in the next 5 years, something is going to come up. But if you are already hanging on by a thread because you've maxed out all your credit cards, you've emptied your savings, when that emergency comes up, it might be enough to push you out of ball pythons because you have to sell the animals that you've been growing up in order to cover this unexpected purchase. And because of this, it's another danger in using credit in order to pay for your initial startup costs. With all of these warnings and negatives out of the way, I do think that there is a situation where it can make sense to use credit. But even in this situation, it is still dramatically increasing the risk, and all of the negatives that we've already talked about still apply. But if you're not just starting out right now, and let's say that you are 3, 4, 5 years into your ball python breeding career, and you have several females that are up to size, and the perfect male comes up for those girls, and it is the only one that exists on the market right now. What I think can be an acceptable use of credit is if you go out and get a 0% interest credit card, and this is specifically for 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, depending on what promotion the lender is running for that credit card. I think that it's possible that you can go out and get a credit card like that, use it to make the purchase of the male that you are eyeing, because as long as you pay it off in that time frame, it will be as if you had paid for it outright, because you're not getting charged interest. But again, there is a risk and there is a gamble, and that risk and gamble is that you are going to be able to pay it off in that introductory promo period in order to get it without any interest. But if you miss a payment or if it goes beyond the promo interest, the way that the credit card companies get you is that they apply all of the interest to the entire balance all at once. So you have to be really, really on it in order to make sure that you are not going to be running into a situation where you get charged a large amount of interest just because you are late on a payment one time. Now, with all of this said, there is still one huge thing that you have to keep in mind, even though I think it's fairly obvious, and that is that if you're going to do this strategy, you have to be prepared to pay them off right now in that 0% interest period. So if it was, let's say, a $5,000 mail and you have 12 months where you can get a purchase without paying interest on it, if you are able to pay $500 a month, that means that that mail will be paid off in 10 months within the introductory period, and therefore you'll be good to go. But if you can't afford $500 a month consistently, then it's something that, again, I still don't think that you should do because it is too risky. So to wrap all of this up, I discourage people who are just getting into breeding ball pythons to use debt and to use credit cards and all of these different loans in order to start their initial business. This doesn't mean that just because you may have used debt in the past that you're 1000% going to get out, but it does mean that it is increasing your risk. And the higher that your risk is, the more likely it's going to be that a situation arises that's going to force you to get out. And if you get out, then all of the time, all of the money, all of the effort that you've already invested are essentially for nothing. So, in my opinion, when you're first starting out, I think it's way better to grow slow and do it within your means. And then once you've been doing it for 3, 4, 5 years, if you want to take a calculated risk and pick up a single mail or something like that on a 0% interest credit card, that is, in my opinion, the only real way to do it without absolutely getting crushed by the interest and payment and things like that. Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, but we will see you next week.